Hi, I'm glad to see you today.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. And you?
Fine, thanks. Also here.
Well, before we start, I wanted to ask you if you hear me and see me well.
Yeah, everything's clear.
Great, fabulous. Today, we are going to talk about and review a handout together about iron deficiency anemia. And this is kind of related to what we talked about during our first counseling session about David. And actually, how's David doing?
Actually, he's really great. We've been doing great since our last meeting. We're trying to do some changes, and well, he's doing fine, but we're hoping to do even better.
I'm glad she's doing great. Also, we're using this new technology, which is called telehealth. Basically, is communication technology that involves the use of computers, laptops, phones, and in this case, this Zoom website, which has a lot of different gadgets like a whiteboard, and I can share my screen to show you the handout that we're reviewing together today. What questions do you have for me before we start?
Oh, actually, I just had one question about David's hemoglobin levels because we talked about it last time, and we went to the doctors and they said he had 8 milligrams over deciliter or grams, I think, but I'm not sure like how low is that.
Okay, that's a great question. Let me use a whiteboard right here before we start reviewing the handout. And I'll draw this. Excuse my drawing skills. They're not the best.
It's okay.
Do you recognize this drawing?
Yeah, like a tube, right? Like for the blood samples, I guess.
You're good. And I'll draw a line here, and I'll draw a line before. As you said, the result that you brought in that first counseling session was reflecting low hemoglobin levels for David. And then we measured his hemoglobin with the Pronto. Do you remember the Pronto?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, it was that red device. No. And let me just put here, we are going to take the middle part as the normal levels. So for children we're seeing that the normal values are 11 to 13 grams per deciliter. And David is 4-year-old. It's a 4-year-old, right?
Yeah, yes.
He's a toddler growing. He was pretty tall, I remember.
Yeah, he is. His dad is tall like that.
And David is right here. So what do you think about this, or what are your questions with this drawing?
Well, actually, this just like really worries me because I can see that's really low comparing to the normal levels. So yeah, I'm kind of worried. So I really want to know what I can do about it. So he goes back to a normal level like as soon as possible. Because yeah, I think that's really low.
Yes. And as you say, as you talk about this, I understand your concern. We're here today to go over the handout, which would provide you with useful information. And also we will talk about further questions that you may have about David. So to start, let me stop sharing this whiteboard if that's okay with you.
Okay, yeah.
As you may recall, iron is a supplement that is needed for good, healthy blood, but also to promote good health. What do you remember about iron deficiency anemia from our last counseling session?
Remember that. Well, yeah, that we need iron to have like normal red blood cells so we can function right, and also that's related to the hemoglobin that we talk about, and that I think I remember you said that hemoglobin helps to transport the oxygen around the body. I think that was about it.
Great, that's an awesome answer. You were paying attention.
Yeah, I was.
Yes, as you said, iron deficiency anemia is a really common type of anemia. And you can see this anemia in an adult in pregnant women, in children, and it's saying that your iron levels are low, but also that and this is related to unhealthy or not that healthy red blood cells and hemoglobin. And as you said, hemoglobin is a substance that carries oxygen to, it goes from our lungs to our tissues. And what it does is it provides our tissues with oxygen. Okay. So how do you feel if, or is it okay if I share with you this handout today?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to use this option of sharing my screen, and please let me know if you can actually see what I'm projecting here.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. I'm going to try to enter a full screen. There you go.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Great. The topic for this handout is iron for strong blood. And this handout is pretty useful. I really like the images and how easy it is to understand the main topics about iron deficiency, anemia, and iron in general. It talks about foods high in iron, how vitamin C can work with iron to promote that good absorption, and also talks about how can I implement more iron foods in my daily diet and in my family's diet as well.
All right.
Okay, so let me start here. The first part of the, let me see if I can do a zoom right here, if I can amplify this part. We're going to start with the left side. Why do I need iron? Everyone needs iron because it carries, as we talked about it, strong blood that carries oxygen to the whole body. It helps fighting colds and flu, keeping energy levels up, and also growing well. What do you think can happen if, with David, if we keep on going with those low levels?
Yeah, well, maybe he's not gonna develop like the way he should. Maybe he's not, I don't know, like getting enough weight or height. And I don't know if maybe later he couldn't catch up with that. I don't know.
Yes, yes, and you're right. Having low iron levels can impact David's growth. It can impact his learning abilities, and he might not do as well as we want in school. And we also talk about anemia. In this case, we summarize this right here in this handout. When someone's blood is low in iron, they have anemia. Low iron in the blood can make someone, and it gives you different examples of different symptoms that you, or not you, but in specific David can have with low iron levels. What symptoms or what have you seen in David now that he was having low iron levels?
Well, actually, that's one of the reasons we took him to the doctors because we started to notice that he was like really sleepy, without energy. He was just being like really mellow. Actually, we're pretty active. We like to do exercise. He plays a lot. But then we started noticing that he was like trying like to sleep more or not like on the mood to do anything. So that worried us because we know he's not like that. So that's why actually we took him in first place to the doctor.
So I understand that you were worried about this because he stopped doing his regular activities like
Yeah, of course. It was just
being more
like weird.
active. Exactly. And we can tie this up with the low levels of iron, low energy, not enough oxygen transported to the tissues. Have you seen him look pale or any other symptoms?
Yeah, actually, he has been looking a bit pale. I didn't notice it as much as the energy levels, but yeah, now that I realize he did look pale.
Okay, okay, and these are some of the common symptoms that we see when there's low levels of iron or iron deficiency anemia: looking pale, feeling tired and weak, eating poorly, or not growing well, getting more sick easily. And a lot of the resources that we're sharing today are going to improve David's consumption of high iron foods.
Awesome.
What questions do you have so far?
Well, actually, right now everything's okay. I'm just really interested in what's next about the high iron foods. So that's really interesting.
So let's go this way to our right. And this part of the handout, it may seem that this handout is kind of long, and I feel like it's more like a pamphlet or ebook where it shares more information, the images, and it gives a lot of different examples.
Okay.
And right here, we see foods high in iron. Meats are a great source of iron. Clams, liver, beef, of course, or he might like clams. I don't think so.
No, he doesn't, but I think we're gonna go with chicken and beef.
Yes. Liver, although it's not the favorite for a lot of people, it's a great source of iron. Beef, turkey, chicken, fish, and pork. These are great sources of iron. And of course, we want David to include this as a part of his regular diet. We also have non-meat foods, enriched cereals, beans. Beans are a great source of iron. What have you heard about, or have you heard about beans and vitamin C before?
Oh, no, not really.
Okay, so let's review what the non-meat food sources of iron are, and then we go to that part of the
All
handout.
right.
Okay? We have tofu, eggs, enriched bread and tortillas, enriched rice, pasta, and cooked cereal. WIC-approved cereals are a good source of iron as well. Leafy greens like collards, chard, kale, mustard. How is he doing with the leafy green consumption?
So he doesn't love them, but he does eat them like occasionally. So I don't think it's too bad.
Yes, and sometimes with children, we have to be really patient and keep offering foods. You may encounter one day with David eating a lot of leafy greens, and then the next day he won't have that appetite, and
Yeah.
he would feel the worst eating that food. So it's a matter of repeating and offering as much as we can.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay, and so we reviewed the entire list of the non-meat foods. And now we're going to the other part of the handout that talks about eating vitamin C foods with iron foods. What foods do you know that are rich in vitamin C?
Well, like orange.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I like the citrus fruits, right?
Yes, correct. And also WIC-approved juices are a great source of vitamin C. We have here that vitamin C helps your body use the iron. So they work as a group and they work together. We can have let's say a tomato with half a cup of lentils or beans, and the vitamin C in tomato, it's like that key to open the door to the iron. So it's easier for David's body to assimilate the iron that is contained in these foods. What food sources of vitamin C does David like?
Oh, actually, he loves orange and mangoes, strawberries. He likes a really fan of them. And actually, vegetables, he does like bell pepper and tomatoes. Not so much the cauliflower, but I think everything else does like.
Yes. And if we think about a breakfast, how would you do that combination for David?
Well, maybe some eggs with bell pepper and maybe some orange juice.
Yes, That's a really great combination. You're having your iron, then you're having the bell peppers, which are rich in vitamin C, the juice as well. And the bell peppers, besides the vitamin C, it has fiber, it has vitamins, minerals. So that's a great idea.
Okay.
And then we are going to the next part of the handout. And it's, how can I get enough iron for myself and my family? This handout has different recommendations for different stages of life. I underline the ones that are most important for David, which is eating 2 to 3 foods that are high in iron every day.
Okay.
And you can look at the list and offer these options for him. It could be lunch, could be breakfast or dinner. And I'm sorry, I think I have something. These allergies are crazy.
I know.
Eating vitamin C when you eat your iron foods. And also, if you're, in this case, if David is low in iron, have you talked to your pediatrician about any supplements, or has he mentioned something?
Not right now. He doesn't talk about any medicine or something. I'm just really going for the food and the nutrition recommendations, but I'm still gonna ask him about that.
Okay. For actually on our end is basically concentrating on the food and working as much as possible with those with vitamin C, with iron, non-meat sources, meat sources as well to improve that consumption. There are other good recommendations to improve iron, which is adding a little bit of meat to other foods. If you do mac and cheese, you can add a little bit of ground meat. Or if by any chance you have cast iron skillets or pots,
Actually, we do.
that's great. So when you cook with this, a little bit of the iron on the skillets gets kind of transferred to the meat that you're cooking or the chicken. So
Oh, that's
that's a good
interesting.
way. Yes, that's a good way to improve the iron in foods as well.
Oh,
And
good.
how are you preparing your beans?
Well, actually, I do soak them overnight. Not
Mhm.
a few hours. I leave them all night long. So that's how we usually do them.
Right, and pre-soak them overnight. It makes beans easier for our body to digest, but also it's really easy to cook if we pre-soak them. And when we pre-soak them, it's better to get rid of that water. And also, when we pre-soak them, it's easier for their iron to get absorbed.
Oh, okay.
Right? Any questions with this part of the handout?
No, not really. Everything's good. Thanks.
Correct. Okay. And this is the end of the handout. It gives you a sample menu for David, for you, for your family. It has 3 main meals and 2 snacks. And this is kind of an example of a meal that you've been doing with David lately, as we discussed in our first counseling session. We have enriched cereal with fruit and milk, orange juice, toast. What do you see or what do you observe from these menus?
Well, actually, I think it's a lot of variety within the day. So I think that's great because kids get bored like really easily, and also I see like it's really easy stuff to do, like really fast. So that's always the good thing, and it's nothing like out of the common. So it's the stuff that we usually eat. So I think it's great.
Yes, you're totally right. It's easy to implement or to build up a menu that is tailored for David, but it also has those iron-rich foods, the vitamin
Yeah.
C that we need to help him with his iron deficiency anemia. We also have this good recipe for you, for David, and for your family. And I noticed that the recipe has 6 to 8 eggs. This must be for a really big family.
Oh, okay.
You can
Yeah,
tailor
there's just 3 of us.
this. You can tailor this recipe to David's needs and to your family needs as well. if you are maybe cooking 1 egg for David and then probably 2 eggs for you and 2 eggs for your husband or for your family, then you can play with those portions in order to make it more
Oh,
or
okay.
adapted for your family. And what do you think about the recipe? Do you think it's something that you would cook at home?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, we love beans. Well, David loves them. We eat them all the time. So I think it's gonna be great. Also, with the salsa, tomato sauce is also something that we usually eat a lot. So it's really good.
Great, I'm glad to hear that. Also, I had a question about milk. We didn't go over that in the first council because we were discussing other topics. How many cups of milk is David drinking every day?
Well, actually, he always has 1 cup at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, like for sure. And maybe sometimes like a snack, maybe like chocolate milk or some yogurt. So yeah, some days he'll have like 5 cups or maybe 4 cups, depends because he loves his milk. He also likes to drink it all the day.
In general, a lot of children do. So if we count 4 to 5, that would mean that he's eating or he's drinking 32 ounces, approximately 40 ounces, 32 to 40 ounces. What it's recommended, and you can also use the My Plate website for children from 8 to 4 years old. It's recommended for them to have 2.5 cups of dairy in general. Dairy meaning yogurt, milk, maybe kefir, which is another option that moms are giving. How do you feel about this recommendation and what
Well,
David
actually,
is?
I'm kind of bit in a shock because that's a lot less that David usually drinks. So I'm, I'm kind of embarrassed, but okay. Yeah, I think we can do that. Just, I don't know. He just likes it. I don't know if it's just because he's used to it because we always drink milk. So, well, maybe, yeah, we'll try to go for that 2.5 servings.
Yes, and don't feel embarrassed. That's why this handout talk it's about to get to know David and which other resources we can offer you in order to improve that iron levels. What could what is what could be happening here or not happening, but what we want to do is offer David more variety, different foods that are high in iron, vitamins, minerals, and dairy, well, milk in this case is high in protein, really good source of calcium, but it's not a great source of iron. And if he's drinking a lot of milk throughout the day or more than what is recommended, then he might be excluding foods that may be a great source of iron in this case.
Okay.
How do you feel about this perspective?
Well, actually, it's really good to know because, sometimes like a mom, you just do like whatever you think it's better, but it's good to know that there's some recommendations that we should follow. So we're going to do that.
Yes, of course. This handout is pretty useful for that. It gives you different recommendations. And although it doesn't talk about milk and the milk consumption, now that we've talked about it, I'm sure that you will do your best, that you have the information and you will apply the information as best you can. What questions do you have with the handout, with what we talked about during this handout presentation?
Well, actually, I was just thinking about one thing. Going back to the high iron foods, are all the same? Like, is it the same? Like, if we have the meats and the non-meats sources, or is it, or is there anything that has more iron than other?
Well, actually, there's one indication here in the handout that says non-meat foods with the most iron are at
Oh,
the
okay.
top of the list. That's for this group, which is enriched cereals, beans, dried peas, but we have meats at the top, and meats are a
Oh,
great source. And they are a great source because the iron that is contained in this food group, it's easier for our bodies to absorb.
okay. So would it be necessary to do the combination with vitamin C in case we are eating the meats group?
It's not as necessary than with the plant-based sources such as beans or garbanzo or peas, but you can still do it because as we review it on the handout, the vitamin C source, the fruits or vegetables that are high in vitamin C, they also contain other vitamins and other minerals and fiber that will complement David's diet.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
What other questions do you have?
Well, actually, I think for now, that's the only question I can think about. Maybe as we go on this week doing these recommendations, maybe something will come up. But I think for now, everything what's really clear.
That's fabulous. I'm sure that you will do a great job. If you have further questions, please feel free to call us. We can schedule another telehealth meeting as well if you feel like there's a need to schedule one. But also, I will send this handout by mail to your home address.
Okay.
So you will have this information and you will have the handout, and this handout has the parts that are underlined and that are basically directed to David.
Awesome.
Awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to stop sharing the handout. And well, I think that's all for today. Thank you very much, Paulina. And say hi to David from myself, and say hi to your family as well.
Thanks a lot for all the information. It was really helpful.
No, of course. You're welcome. Have a
Thanks.
great day.
You too.
Bye
Bye.
bye.